Pleasure basically be the first speaker, and the title of my talk is Revolutionizing the Medical Imaging Data Analysis and Uniting AI and the Statistics for Breakthroughs and Challenges. At the beginning, I would love to thank all my friends for sharing their slides. I copied some slides. I spent the last week for 4 days just to prepare the slides. And actually, there's 3 parts of my talk. And I'll give a brief introduction about the topic. The second one about the AI applications in these areas, and also the opportunities for statisticians in advancing medical imaging data analysis. And actually, I used the ChatGPT to generate these pictures. Okay, I copied the title and asked the ChatGPT generate a picture for me. Okay, that's what the ChatGPT generated. And actually, this is medical image analysis. And use the technique and the process used to create the pictures, images of the human bodies for clinical purposes or the medical science. Okay. And actually, I give a list of the different the medical imaging modalities and have been widely used for clinical and research purposes. And overall, these imaging methods are essential for delineating the structure and the functionality of organs and the tissues. Okay. And each imaging modality employs distinct target agents, generating data in various dimensions, extract unique features, and serve the specific purposes within clinical and research contexts. Okay. You have the big, general picture about this area. Okay. And actually, I started with concrete examples, and this is based on one of my joint paper with Xin Wang on this cardiac imaging. And this is the heart. Essentially, we can consist of 2 parts. One is long vessel anatomical structures and the vessel anatomical structures. And actually, you can further divide this structure into different substructures. And actually, you can use different imaging modalities and to investigate their anatomical structures and all the functions. Okay. And also, we further link all these substructures with the different popular the cardiac diseases. Okay. And actually, as the statistician or data analysis, the most important things we are needed to carry out this imaging processing and analysis methods. The purpose is to enhance and extract a signal of interest in imaging data. Well, that's the main purposes. And in general, this field consists of 2 major parts. One is deconvolution, another one is structured learning. And for deconvolutions, you can further divide into the imaging reconstruction and also imaging enhancement. Okay? And for structured learning, and actually we use both of the imaging segmentation method and also imaging registration method. And in terms of the specific method, it's not purely about statistics. You can use the method from engineering, statistics, machine learning, and mathematics. Okay, this field is very diverse. Okay. And actually, I want to emphasize the most important part in the field is about structured learning. And actually, there's 2 major methods. And actually, the most important thing is about image segmentation. Actually, in practice, we pay the bills when we go to hospital to receive the service, okay? And in particular, like localize the pathology, all these kind of tumors in the body, okay? And actually, for the imaging registration, it's the most important things. We created atlas to integrate the data across subjects and the studies, okay? And this is all different major applications in practice, okay? And actually, I used the slides from one of my friends. He developed platforms and basically for processing these kinds of light microscopy images. It allowed us to perform the whole brain imaging analysis at the single cell levels. Okay, and this is all the kinds of the tools called VAA 3D. And actually, his group have published many impactful papers, and also these tools have been widely used in the neuroscience field. Okay. And actually, besides the deconvolution and the structured learning, And we use the imaging data and with other data set together. That's basically doing integration. And also, in clinical aspect, also do the predictions. Okay. This is the basic general product review about the field. And also, I give the second part is about state-of-art AI applications in the field. Okay. And actually, I just mentioned the 4 major AI milestones in the last decade. The first one is the ImageNet. ImageNet is a large-scale database consisting of about 14 million annotated data sets, okay, images, okay? And this database has been widely used in the machine learning and computer vision and for training and testing the machine learning algorithms, okay? The second milestone is the deep learning. And actually, we know that the deep learning really has been widely used and developed in the last decade for both the computer vision and the natural NLP field, and have solved many challenging problems in the field, okay? The third one is by integrating the deep learnings, reinforcement learnings achieved a remarkable performance in several major kinds of problems like the Go and also robotics and other fields, other specific applications. And in the last decades, we see a lot of different products, including published paper in top journals with both science and nature. And this is the AlphaGo, and the second one, Alpha and the Fold. And the last one is ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to generate his own pictures, and that's what ChatGPT generated for me. Okay, that's the last one is the ChatGPT. Okay. And actually, when you for the whole field of the medical image analysis, one of my friends, Ding Gangshen, has been adopted many of these ideas in the medical image analysis. And when I look back almost 10 years later, I see the most exciting kinds of contribution of the deep learning is the development, the architecture called UNet, okay? And there's a series, basically, there's several major kind of review papers on this topic. Actually, the people have used this kind of these tools to do this kind of, to develop the AI tools for do the imaging annotation, okay? This is the one tools developed by my collaborators, Mark. That's his tools. You can use it to annotate the imaging data, okay? This is how I show you how to do it, okay? And also, you can use the deep learning architectures and the tools to solve other challenging kinds of the image analysis problems. This is one of the examples my friend used to do the imaging registration on the surface, for the surface of the data. Okay. And another very important kinds of application is the generative models. Essentially, in statistics, we're think about kinds of data imputation. Okay, this is the examples basically to try to using given the MI to impute the patch, and also giving the patch can generate the missing MI data sets. This is the kinds of cross-modality imaging synthesis. Okay. And also, you can use the deep learning and combine with some of statistical models, basically to develop these computer-aided medical data analysis kinds of the pipelines. And then some of the key methods, like this, the neuroimaging, these kinds of nonlinear representation method, like all kinds of these kinds of methods these days. And for this representation learning and the multimodality data fusion and the multi-site data adaptations. And if you ask me what are the two most important challenges, I can tell you, the first one is we don't really understand all the organs and the tissues that much in many cases, complicated cases, okay? And I think that's the most difficult part. The second part, from technology perspective, that's the major heterogeneities within the individual subjects and across the centers and the studies. Okay, that's basically the two major kinds of the challenges from technical side. Okay, and actually, what's the consequences for this? Compared with the ImageNet, and actually for the medical image analysis, the most of the difficulty is there's no publicly available high-quality imaging data set with detailed annotation information that cover a larger spectrum of the segmentation task in the healthcare. Okay, if you could generate the data, this basically the value is more than thousands of billion dollars. Okay, because that's so valuable in practice. And from statistical perspective, and there's some like how to quantify the uncertainties and generalizabilities of the atlases, as well as the deconvolution and the structured learning methods, and also data, the results. And another thing is very interesting, how to develop a reinforcement learning method for various segmentation and regression tasks. And I think the key bottleneck is still the first part, okay, the data size, okay, data set. And the last about opportunity for statisticians, and actually that's the most of the challenging part to me, and to talk about it, because different people may have the different taste, okay? And Jiankao may have his test, I have my own test, okay? And the different people have the different taste. That's quite common in practice. And I just give you my own opinion about the field, doesn't represent in general. And also Professor Fong has his opinion about the field. Okay, this is very important. The first things, I spent 3 years at the DD, and actually in the private sector. And actually the most important thing is I changed the way I'm thinking about applications, and also think about the analytical tools, all the methods we developed. And for these days, my personal view is we should emphasize application first, that's the core, and to the ABCs, okay? And the key things is basically we start with some very important applications, dream high, that's the important part. Then you'll move to the data set, okay? Actually, you think about whether you could get the good data set for your problems, okay? And if you could not get the data set, I just stop there. Don't do anything further. Okay. And besides that, actually, these days, we need to think about analytical tools. Don't have to be a statistical method. Okay? When you're really doing data science these days, you have to learn different kinds of tools from applied math, statistics, machine learning, and engineering. And actually, I really wanted to emphasize these days, engineering is super important, okay? And this is basically tell you how really you deliver the products to the customers, to the students, to the other researchers. This is very important. Other than that, basically the most important is the computing power. This is another very important infrastructure these days. I talked with my friends in Alibaba. He told me these days, what he really care about, number one is the computing powers, okay? He has more than 100 GPUs. And also this guy also from industry also have the 100 GPUs, okay? And also you have human resource. You have the people from the different backgrounds. And in a team, like in a tech company, we only have 10% of people from statistics, a majority from other backgrounds. This is very important days when you really work on this kind of the big problems involved in data science these days. Yeah, I think this is basically covers some of the things I have been doing in the last 20 years. When I started to work at Columbia, actually I started to get into the psychiatry. The questions I have been working on during that time is a neuropsychiatric disease, schizophrenia, okay? And the questions when I started to work on the brain disorders, these days I also work on Alzheimer's and this kind of disease, neurodegenerative disease, and also trauma. And actually, you will figure out, actually, for most brain disorders, like Alzheimer's, and also schizophrenia, are highly heritable disease, okay? And genetic can account for around 50% or even more on that. That's the reason, actually, I modified this kinds of path diagram from one of my friends. It's basically we go from the genes to molecules to cells and to the brain, okay? This is where basically for all these kinds of different kinds of the component, you can use the imaging to acquire a certain type of data to investigate the function and the structure and the function of these different components. And until you have the clinical behaviors, okay? And also confounded with the environmental and the social and psychological factors. Okay, that's basically all kinds of the applications in my mind. I think it's related all my grants funded by NIH. Okay. Essentially, ideas basically we wanted to understand these path diagrams. And actually, in practice, there's no single data set to cover all these kinds of the different boxes, okay? And actually, we, over the last 20 years, understand them more because I analyze more data sets. And actually, the last several years, I emphasize these kinds of causal genetic imaging clinical pathways, okay? I have all these kinds of different components. I try to set up these kinds of causal pathways. And actually, this causal pathways is a kind of, I call it as a spatial temporal causal pathways to characterize etiology of different brain-related diseases. And essentially, you think about this kinds of changing across the times. And the different subjects, even though they have slightly different pathways, but actually they have kinds of the common pattern behind it. That's some of these question applications during my own research in the field, okay? And actually, as a statisticians, and actually when you have all these kinds of data related to these kinds of the big, applications, when dream higher, right? And the question is, what kind of statistical method you can develop? Actually, there's multiple kinds of the tools and the theories for brain-related research. And here I just highlight, one of my students highlight, this first one is multiple biobank and clinical trial data integrations. Another thing is basically omic data integrations. And the third one is the new computational tools to really integrate all the data, different data type, and also the data across the different studies. The last one, advanced method for dense signals. Okay. This is the kinds of the methodology challenges my student outlines in his dissertation. And actually, there's more important statistical topics or problems you can basically, and actually in one of our recent review papers, we review some of these kinds of key topics, and you can take a close look at the areas. And I didn't discuss actually the two topics in my review paper. One is a knowledge-based method, another one is a reinforced learning method, because we don't have too much results in this topic. But in generally, this topic is pretty open to the field and to all the statisticians. And if you are really jumping, I think this is a great time for you to start it. Okay. The main reason is because we have tons of data these days. Okay. You can do a lot in this topic. Okay. And besides basically the traditional statistical topics, and also we think about these days related to AI, we think about interpretabilities, and also think about the general abilities, the data privacies, unbalanced data, and the large language models. Okay. And I just show you what I did. Actually, in the last 5 to 10 years, and this is one of the table I copied from my grant, my recent ones. And actually, I go to the literatures and also public domains to get all kinds of data back. okay? And my current data sheet is much longer than this, okay? But this is still very complicated. It's also related to Alzheimer's disease, okay? You have also different data types and also people from different background and also different sample size, okay? And also different designs, okay? And actually, I wanted to emphasize the importance of UK Biobank data studies. This is one of the most valuable data set, and actually, I'm one of the earlier users for this data set, okay? I think through my career, one of the most wise investment I did in my career is basically I started earlier on this data set. I use this data set basically, there's all kinds of different data types. I never touched it before. I never even know the names. And actually, I started earlier, basically, invested some resources, basically, to develop the pipelines and to process all different data, integrate the data together, okay? And this is very important data, still is very important these days because it's really valuable for statistical community to work on this data set. There's a lot of things can be done in these areas, okay? And this is basically, this is one of my recent papers I haven't submitted yet. It's almost finished. Actually, we tried to develop both data processing method and also data modeling strategies, okay? And actually, you know that, and there's all kinds of data types in this data set. I use this data set to basically train my students, train myself, okay? And for different data types, and also these have a different data resources like inpatient data, self-report, primary cares, and also all kinds of the data, and all kinds of the problems inside how to deal with this kinds of problems. I use UK Biobank to train my students to do it. This is the one-year job for my students just to work on this, okay? After basically finishing the data pre-processing, then we do data modeling. There's all kinds of modeling we need to do on this, okay? And this is basically my student whole year work, 4 of my students work on this. And the first things, some concrete project, or this is one of the projects that we're working on is basically refine the existing imaging analysis pipelines. I don't have so much enough resources to refine all these pipelines, but for some of these kinds of pipelines, I can do it because I have good collaborators, not just by myself. I'm not working independently, okay? I have a lot of collaborators on different fields. And this is one of the imaging analysis pipelines we developed, basically for the cardiac images, okay? And this is basically for particular models. This is the concrete models in pre-processing pipelines, and also these modeling strategies we used, and also the disease diagnosis and risk assessment, and also post-analysis for basically the whole pipelines. Because for the UK Biobank and actually the ICD-10 code, we generated these kinds of fake code, and then we basically develop these the pipelines to process all the data, to develop the predictive models for all more than 1,000 fake codes. Okay. And this is one of the Professor Feng's results after his colleague sent me some of these their findings by using UK Biobank and other data set. And actually, one thing I'm doing these days is I'm not just processing the data. I do a lot of clinical papers these days. I find that there are some interesting scientific questions. I just pick the data and do the data analysis, okay? Nothing fancy. I just do real data analysis. I write this up, okay? I train my students how to write these papers and tell them this, you need to think scientifically when you analyze the data, okay? This is something we are also train my students to do it. Another thing is basically, this is one of my students' the work. My student, Bingxin Zhao, now at UPenn, Wharton. And actually, this is one of his science papers. We published 2 papers in Science. And this is one of his science papers, try to integrate the heart and the brain together. And we do the GWAS on this, okay? We find a lot of genetic signals on this. And then they show you another thing. After we generate all these kinds of the findings, besides the published the papers in top journals, another thing that we are doing these days is basically create these kinds of knowledge portals and to share with the community and to basically on this, okay? We aim to build the best knowledge basis of the imaging genetics. And besides that, actually these days, we try to do this knowledge graph constructions. And actually, I worked in a tech company for 3 years. One of my main tasks is doing this, okay? And actually, we try to integrate, this is one of the knowledge graph is for Alzheimer's disease. And what we try to do is we build our existing knowledge graph. And actually, this is all kinds of existing knowledge graph. And actually, then besides that, the existing knowledge graph has a lot of noise inside. And we try to integrate more information from the literatures. There's a lot of PDF files. We try to extract the tables, a lot of information from the different tables, abstract, and basically add that one and context features in our knowledge graph. And also, we do a lot of the real data analysis. We integrate all our existing real data results in the knowledge graph. That's what we are doing these days, okay? And we try to reduce the noise in the existing knowledge graph. We're doing this. And finally, I conclude what I really want to do is very similar to this paper. I review kind of the paper on the foundation model for generalist medical artificial intelligence. The key ideas is basically you have the data, different data types, okay? From text, audios, imaging, EHR signal, and also the omics and the graphs. That's from this real data, okay? Both from observation and also clinical studies. And also you try to extract information from medical domain knowledge, like the literatures, publications, clinical notes, and knowledge graph. Eventually, at the end, I created this ChatGPT type of tools to summarize the existing results and integrate the information as the prior information to build the better predictive models across the different ethnic groups. And eventually, this one paper in Media Archive, they demonstrate that UK Biobank is better than most of the data scientists, okay, from a concrete, specific data set, okay? And this is basically the end of my talk. Thank you.
We're doing very well on time, so we can take questions. So because this event has the live stream, so we will use the microphone. Just pass around.
Thanks for the very exciting talk. Then my question is simply about replicability. You did a lot of discoveries and using data to explore different features and structured learning and everything, but you talk about ABC. I like that, like application big data and computing. But I think this replicability, maybe duplicability, whatever that. I think it's very essential for people to really trust and then to understand and even apply whatever the discoveries you have from this big data. And I don't know if you have any comments about the replicability or reproducibility.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that this is essentially basically when you really develop all these data analysis analytical tools and build all these models in practice, really use it in the real clinical applications. I think the generalizabilities and reproducibilities are super important. Okay, I agree on that. But here I didn't emphasize this. Is many. I do mention a little bit about generalizabilities of these results. But I think that's super important.
What do you think about infrastructure to do this?
Yeah, that was my question.
No, I think the infrastructure. The infrastructure, actually, you think about when I mentioned about the knowledge graph and all these kinds of things, and also try to integrate the data from different studies and also across the different ethnic groups. That's essentially my key point is you cannot really trust one single studies for everything, for one particular questions. for everything. And that's the reason I integrate the data from different resources for the one of these purposes. And additionally, we mainly carry out additional validation studies for doing that. But actually, for me, I take advantage of AI tools, basically, to help us to better summarize all the existing results. And as basically, that's something I think compared with the before, we don't have a lot of these kinds of powers to do it. I think from statistical perspective, application perspective. I think we can use the ChatGPT for doing this type of thing. We can screen millions of the PDF files these days. Okay.
So related to Peter's comments, I think reproducibility is very extremely important. And because the pharmaceutical companies are responsible for the next development, if the result is not reproducible, we will pay a huge price on this. One of the key things for the reproducibility is we don't understand, in general, how large of the alternative hypothesis, because we tried different models at different steps, and potentially kind of use a random forest or some things, and the alternative hypothesis space could be very, very large. In that case, you increase the false positive rate. So one thing kind of we do routinely these days is kind of we use similar like a GitHub kind of the approach to record the models and also record the steps. So in that case, we can better estimate and understand how large of the modeling space that can help us to know what the chance of the alternative hypothesis. And also before that, it's also very important is we want to better leverage the biology assumptions. So sometimes we often see the case is we got some result, and people can always interpret the result, but we don't want to kind of regard the result correct or incorrect. We want to avoid kind of this case is before we do the experiment, we ask the biologists what the top tier, second tier hypothesis, and if our result is consistent with that, then we can increase our chance to better understand the true discoveries. But actually, another thing that I want to ask the question is kind of related to Hongtu talking about. These days, there are a huge amount of data is unlabeled data, and each of the kind of how can we better use this data? One key thing is each label is not equally important. Label some of the images can give us more information. Label another kind of images may give us less information. At the same time, our experts have a limited time. So how can we kind of condition on the limited time, the expert time is label the most valuable information and increase our chance of the better understanding this data. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think this is super important. I think that this is emphasized in the second part. I emphasize there's the limited progress in the medical science in general to have this high, large-scale annotated data set. And besides the experts' the limited resources on that, I think the method itself, I didn't see a lot of progress in the field. I think there's much more things should be done on this topic. It's very important in practice.
Very nice talk, thanks.
Thank you.
Hongtu. And actually, my question is very related to that replicability. I think in your talk, one thing missing is hospital, clinical application. I don't care replications, basically. If clinically, that's a real final proof to whatever you said here. For example, your brain disorder or your Alzheimer's disease, if you can find some biomarkers which is really useful for clinical application, I think that's a final proof for your replication or whatever. So I think that's something missing in your talk, or I don't know what's in your mind.
I think
for the final end user.
I think I can completely agree with you on this aspect. I didn't discuss these kinds of the drug discoveries and also validation in the clinical trials. These are very super important things because my theme is focused on medical image analysis. I think the other speakers will cover this topic, and I think I need to even you to discuss that. I think that's basically that's end of my talk. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask a question. Oh, sorry. Just a last question. So you mentioned generative models. I was wondering what would be the impact on imaging, medical imaging application from these generative models, because we have more and more generated data. like everyone is using AI tools to generate data. So imagine if you generate medical images from this ChatGPT, Midjourney, whatever. So what are the threats to these applications? Like if I start, I mean, if I can simulate more data so I can improve my model, but what if this model does not align with the medical application?
I think the main kind of barriers is, I think, even though there's not a lot of research ongoing on this, but for medical research, there are a lot of kind of regulation, how to use it properly, in what sense, and also how to validate this diffusion model, this type of generative models. At least, for writing the papers published in like AI conference, it's a different story than when you really go to the applications, you really develop the kinds of tools for, for the physicians and also the patients. I don't think that's reached the level yet. I think the whole biomedical image analysis is a totally different than computer vision is because of that. Because you don't have a lot of data, annotated data, good data set.
Thanks.
Thank you. So now we are proceeding to 4 lightning talk for this theme. So the first one is my honor to introduce one of our local faculty from MBZ UAI, Dr. Yaqub Muhammad. He's associate professor of computer vision, and he has teaching today. He made his time available to attend this workshop, so I'm very grateful. And his research is very